for millions of us, a driver's license is just freedom, right? But what if I told you that behind that little plastic card, there's this incredibly complex medical system, a system that's constantly asking one single crucial question: are you really safe to be behind the wheel? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and show you exactly how those massive, life-changing decisions get made. So, can your health actually cost you your license? It's a bit of a scary thought, isn't it? But the answer is a hard yes. A sudden change in your health, a new diagnosis, even certain lifestyle choices, they can all trigger a review that could literally take you off the road. So the big question is, how does this whole thing even work? Okay, so this building right here, that's the DVLA headquarters. And inside, you've got medical advisors weighing evidence and making these huge judgments about public safety every single day. And I want to be super clear about this. These are not random choices. They're based on a really meticulous, evidence-based system. So let's dive in and break down exactly what that system looks like. First things first, we need to get our heads around the foundation of it all. See, every single rule about whether you're medically fit to drive is built on a really solid framework. You can think of it like 5 strong pillars that hold up the entire structure of road safety in the UK. So what are these pillars? Well, it all starts with legislation, right? The actual laws, which are often based on expert reports. Then you've got ongoing advice from special panels of doctors and specialists. The third pillar is a huge evidence base, all the latest scientific studies and data. That's then backed up by expert opinion from individual clinicians. And finally, and this is the crucial part, it all gets boiled down into the 5th pillar, a direct, numbers-based risk assessment. And that last pillar, the risk assessment, is where this whole system gets really specific. It's not just a gut feeling about whether someone is safe or not. Oh no, it's a calculation. The DVLA has a formula, and it all comes down to 2 very critical numbers. This is it. This is the one question that lies at the heart of everything. Whether someone has a heart condition or epilepsy or any other issue, the advisors are trying to put a number on it. They're trying to quantify the chance that something could happen to a driver that would make them suddenly lose control of their car. And they have very, very specific limits for what they consider an acceptable risk. And this is where it gets really, really interesting. Look at the huge difference between these 2 groups. For a regular car driver like most of us, that's group 1, the acceptable risk is less than 20% a year. Okay, but for a professional driver, a group 2 driver, we're talking bus drivers, lorry drivers, that number just plummets. It drops all the way down to less than 2%. That's 10 times stricter. And it makes sense, right? The potential consequences if something goes wrong are just so much greater. All right, so talking about percentages is one thing, but how does this system actually work when it comes to a real medical condition? Let's take a look at one of the most common and frankly complex areas that the DVLA has to assess: alcohol use. So to get an objective measure, the DVLA often turns to a specific blood test called a CDT test. Now what that does is it measures something called carbohydrate deficient transferrin. To put it simply, it's a marker in your blood that goes up when someone has been drinking heavily and consistently for a few weeks. It gives them hard data, taking the whole assessment beyond just what a person says they've been drinking. And this table just illustrates perfectly how that data gets put to use. A result of 2.2% or less, that's considered normal. But as soon as it creeps up into that 2.3 to 2.9% range, that's a red flag for problematic drinking. We're talking over 60 grams of alcohol a day for at least a week. And if it hits 3% or more, well, that suggests dependent drinking, often over 100 grams a day. These numbers give the DVLA a really clear, evidence-based scale to help them make a decision. But it's not always about blood tests and hard numbers. The system also leans really heavily on the judgment of a driver's own doctor. And this is where things can get incredibly complicated, because it can pit a doctor's duty to their patient against their duty to protect the public. Just imagine this for a second. A doctor assesses a patient and tells them, look, based on the medical standards, you are not safe to drive. You have to tell the DVLA. But what if the patient just refuses? Maybe they're scared of losing their independence or even their job. What is that doctor supposed to do? Well, the guidance from the General Medical Council is actually pretty clear on this. Patient confidentiality is, of course, a huge deal, but it isn't absolute. If there is a real risk of death or serious harm to other people, the law allows a doctor to break that confidentiality and report their patient directly to the DVLA. It's a last resort, for sure, but it just shows how seriously this is all taken. But it's almost never that black and white. Doctors are facing these tricky gray areas all the time. What if they're not 100% certain a medical standard is met, especially with something like mental health or substance misuse? Or what if it's just not clear how long someone needs to stay off the road for? These are the tough, real-world dilemmas that clinicians have to navigate every single day. So when you look at the whole system, what you really see is a chain of shared responsibility. You've got the DVLA setting the standards based on all that evidence. You've got doctors providing their expert judgment and advice. But, the first and maybe the most important link in that chain is the driver themselves. The responsibility to be honest about your health and to always put public safety first. So we'll leave you with this question. Now that you've had a peek behind the curtain, you know about the risk calculations, the evidence, and the tough ethical choices. If your health took a turn tomorrow and it put you right in that gray area, would you be the one to make the call?